Hello, and thank you for joining me today for this presentation on a dyslexia-friendly learning environment. I'm currently studying to be a specialist dyslexia tutor alongside working as a history teacher at Northampton School for Girls. I wanted to take the opportunity to share some thoughts and some research about creating a dyslexia-friendly learning environment, as this will benefit all of your students, not just those who are diagnosed as dyslexic. So it's important to begin by establishing what we understand by the term dyslexia. This is something which I didn't have a huge amount of training on when I trained 20 odd years ago, but it is something that I've come across regularly in my career and find that there are still many people who have lots of misconceptions. So dyslexia is a neurodiversity. It's a lifelong condition. However many things we put into place to enable students to progress, it's not something that can be cured. It is genetic in its origin. It doesn't just impact reading and writing, which is one way in which people are often confused with dyslexia and think it is all about misability to spell. It's also about things such as working memory, coordination, concentration and personal organisation. And for those reasons, one of the biggest barriers that people with dyslexia have is issues with self-esteem, because they have on so many different occasions found that they're not able to do the things which are expected of them. It means that they are believing constantly that they are in some way unintelligent or not able. It's also important to remember that no two dyslexic individuals are the same. So there is no one size fits all approach. It isn't something which you can just have one strategy in place and that one strategy will resolve all problems. So the British Dyslexia Association approximates that 10% of the population are dyslexic. So for those of us who are working in classrooms with roughly 30 students, this means that we are going to have at least one dyslexic student within the room and most probably about 3. Now this may show up on your SEND information, however it may not. Not everybody with dyslexia is diagnosed, and there are huge numbers of people who have dyslexic tendencies. So a dyslexic friendly learning environment is beneficial to all of your students. This is because the aim is to reduce cognitive load, therefore improving the ability to use your working short-term memory and build self-esteem. This empowers students to recognise their strengths, and this allows learning to become less of a chore. So research from the British Dyslexia Association looks at the ways in which students learn best. So there are a few things that we can look at here. First of all, setting clear objectives of what students are expected to do for each task. That be the amount of work, whether we're looking at sentence structure or paragraph structure, whether we are looking at a particular style. The objectives need to be very clear. It's also important to take a multi-sensory approach. So as it says later, dual coding is perfect to be used here. If you are giving oral instructions, it may well be beneficial to have written instructions as well. Pre-prepared PowerPoints, it could be that you have cue cards on the tables that are things that you want people to do in certain orders. Making sure that you actually give students the time to listen to the instructions that you are giving so that they can process that, and in doing so giving them time to ask questions. Being able to ask for clarification or for them to explain words or to double check that they've understood things is key to making sure that those objectives are clear and understood. Students with dyslexia find that teachers who are patient when they make mistakes are the most beneficial to them. Their self-esteem is often incredibly low because they often feel as though they are not able to make the same progress as their peers. Therefore, every time they make mistakes, this increases the issues they have with self-esteem. So being patient with mistakes and being able to explain things and having the time and making the time to do that is a really positive thing. Teachers who proactively check that students are doing it right are also beneficial to students with dyslexia. This could mean that you have a system of priority check-in just to make sure that before they start putting a lot of effort into a piece of work, they are doing what it is that they are expected to do. But most importantly, and these are 2 quotes from students, the teachers who they feel that give them the best results are the teachers who are nice to them even when they get it wrong. As I've said, as part of the dyslexic community, having a self-esteem issue because you've often been asked to read in front of a class and you don't feel that you can, or you've been made to feel stupid for all sorts of reasons, having somebody who is nice to them even when they get it wrong is a huge factor. And teachers that smile when we ask for help. I know that I can be guilty sometimes of explaining something to the nth degree and then someone turns around and asks a question that I've clearly just explained. It's really, really difficult not to roll your eyes and think, I've literally just said that to you, but actually smiling when you ask for help. So try to keep that in mind, try to keep that smile on your face even when it is difficult and it's last thing on a Friday, but keep that smile there. It's really, really appreciated by all of our students. So things to avoid. Try not to give too many instructions at once. This increases cognitive load and it's really difficult for people to process if they're trying to process actual words because the automaticity of recognizing phonics isn't there. Having to have too many instructions at once is going to make life really, really difficult. Set targets that can be achieved. Break things down into small stages so that success can be recognized, and you may not have achieved the full target, but you've got all the stages there. Try not to move on too quickly either. For a dyslexic student who does not have that automaticity of word processing, they may still be processing a piece of information. As you move on, they didn't learn the last bit properly, so they can't make the links to the next bit. And then they don't learn the next bit properly because they're still trying to learn the last bit. And this leads to a patchwork of information, which is never full, and therefore the full picture can't be seen. So it may be that you ask them to do a shorter task which focuses on the key skills but perhaps not so much of the content. And lastly, empower the students. Ask them what works for them in their other lessons or at home. Every student knows their best ways of learning and they may suggest something really, really simple that you haven't thought of, but it works from them, and the fact that you've listened will really build that relationship with that student. Lastly, remember that every student is different. There is no one way to differentiate for dyslexic students. Every student is an individual and you need to build that relationship and work with them. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your programme.